Okay, everybody, we made it. We did it. We got through another week. This is my last post-market wrap-up of this week. And to say the least, it has been very, very interesting. So yes, Friday, March 18th, 2022. How about, well, let's start off with this. In the last 4 days, we have watched the stock market make a very substantial rebound. And a lot of this, people, you know exactly what I'm going to tell you. The market is euphoric on the Federal Reserve raising the federal funds rate 0.25%. I know how insane this sounds, but that's exactly what is taking place. You knew it. We covered it right here in this video blog. And what you're seeing now is how this is going to play out moving forward. I fully do expect that the Fed is going to nudge the federal funds rate higher over the next several meetings. And every time they do this, the market's going to respond in a positive way. Look, I've explained to you that the one thing that this market hates more than anything else is uncertainty. The market doesn't care really. It's going to shrug everything off, the war as well, as long as it knows what's going to happen. That's it. And the market knows that that is exactly what is going to happen. But the lie is going to be propagated more and more. You're going to hear from Federal Reserve presidents, more of them, raising rates is going to do something about, I'm laughing right in the middle of my statement. Raising rates is going to do something about inflation. No, nothing could be further from the truth. You see, that's the distraction. That's the look here. Don't look here. The Federal Reserve can raise rates from now literally until kingdom come, until they stop buying assets, until the Federal Reserve is not called upon to continue to pull cash from the future via any engineered mechanism they want to come up with, a war, COVID. Oh, did you hear that one? So we heard the other unhuman, dishuman entity thing, Doctor, I don't even want to call him Dr. Fauci. He's saying that, okay, there's this new variant coming around, and we better be ready for it because it's not over yet. And our president Bidenstein, he's calling for yet another 22.8 billion to be pulled out of the future, borrowed from the Fed, so we could be prepared for the new variant. They're going to milk that. They're not done milking it. You see, you have to understand. Just do yourself a little research here. The CEOs of these big pharmaceutical companies, they're averaging about $2 million a month in salary, not counting stock options and stuff like that. They have more vaccines to sell you. The CEO of Pfizer, he just got $2 million a month in salary alone, and he has a fourth vaccine for you coming soon and a fifth. So be ready for that, and his salary is going to continue to go higher. As again, billions of dollars are borrowed from the future into the now by whatever thing is sitting behind the Resolute desk. And believe me, if it was any other thing, it would be the same scenario. It doesn't matter who sits behind that desk. It could be a farm animal. You all know that. So anyway, yes. Lovely rally on Wall Street for the last 4 days. What does it mean for Monday? We got to give back at one point. This has been a pretty significant rebound in the last 4 days. Am I saying 100% we're going to give back on Monday? No. But I'd like to see a little give back here. Nothing goes straight up without a little give back. We had this market go straight up for years. And then all of a sudden, since the end of last year, we had this normal corrective phase, and people were ready to throw in the towel, jump out of windows, whatever you want to do. The panicking, oh no, it's laughable. And then people like me have been scooping up everything on the cheap. My lions are doing the same thing. And then these same people are going to go, oh, I wish I didn't get out of the market. I was really stupid. That's always the same thing. It's a repetitive pattern. And then they hate people like me because, you see, we're smart enough to realize where the opportunities are. It's always the way it is, Hate successful people, but don't mimic them. Don't do what they do. Just hate them. And everyone's going to be better off. The whole world's going to be a better place. Meanwhile, people, this guy is working as hard and as diligently as he possibly can to allow you to understand this freak show and how to capitalize on it. Again, for those of you that must hear this, because I know there are some, I am not right all the time, but I am certainly right most of the time. And that's all we need to do. Be is right most of the time. So anyway, people, what else happened today? We started out kind of interesting. We had this kind of safety trade issue, knee-jerk higher in the dollar. Okay, early on, that's exactly what it looked like because stock futures were lower across the board. Well, that turned around pretty nicely, and we got a nice rally again across the board. There's a lot of buying going on here. Bargain hunters, whatever you want to call it, people that realize that now that the Fed is moving here and they have no intention at all to stop inflation. Again, if they did have even the slightest intention to slow down inflation, not only would they have raised the federal funds rate more than 0.25%, they would immediately announce that they are stopping or at least slowing buying of mortgage-backed securities, stopping or slowing of buying debt, stopping or slowing of funneling dollars around the world to central banks who are buying assets with dollars. But no, none of that is happening. None of it at all. Imagine how shocked I am. Can I see your shocked face? Let's do this together. Ready? Shocked. Stunned. I tell you, this stuff does get to me from time to time. It honestly does. Let's move forward here. So we got Bitcoin 42,000 going much higher. You know that is volatile. Space not for everyone, but if you are so inclined, yeah, you could buy more of cryptocurrencies in aggregate. You should obviously be taking advantage of what they are doing lately, hitting gold and silver a little bit. After a nice run, you must become your own central bank. You must bet against this debt, people, because it's not going to stop. I know what's going on here. You got the mainstream propaganda ministries. They're parading out this freak, followed by this freak, followed by that other freak, who's trying to convince you that things are going to get better. They're not. Don't expect a damn thing to get better. Expect this crisis to crisis, multiple crises at the same time, mechanism to play out, to continue to inflate, allow central banks to continue to inflate, governments around the world, puppet governments around the world, forcing the public into some kind of servitude, slavery, because again, if it's a crisis, they can do whatever they want. A crisis gives the so-called puppet governments like Bidenstein and the European Union, whoever else, because it's really the central banks running the whole show, gives them a blank check, and you must stand behind it. It's your patriotic duty. You have to allow them to spend billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions, just pull it out of the future, borrow it from a central bank. You have to stand behind it, because if you don't, you're a very bad person, and you're not a patriot. You don't love your nation. You don't love other people around the world. Again, look, they're going to demonize you. So I dare you to speak out about the cash, the billions, the hundreds of billions that we're sending over to Ukraine to fight a war that's already been lost. How about the $6 trillion that's missing? Do your own research on this, people. There is $6 trillion in COVID assistance missing. Where did it go? Where do you think all this cash is going? Do you really think all this cash is going to support the people of the Ukraine? Do you really think all this cash went to support preparing for COVID? No, it goes into pockets. Maybe a fraction of all that cash makes it to wherever it's supposed to go. It's always the same story. And people keep falling for the bullshit over and over again. This another 22.8 billion that our retard president is looking for. How much of that do you think is actually going to go to prepare for the variant, the new variant that Fauci's talking about? 10%, at best 10%. The rest of it, right into the pockets of people like Fauci. All right, count on it. It's the way it goes. Anyway, let us move forward. On the economic front, we got some lovely economic news. How about this? Existing home sales, month over month, cratered isn't even the word, fell 7.2%. That's beyond cratered. It's gotten completely out of control. Now, most of you have heard me explain to you, and I think you would have to agree, that all we do is move from freaking crisis to freaking crisis to freaking crisis, and they're going to prolong each one of these crises for as long as they possibly can, only as a mechanism to continue to borrow cash, pull it from the future, and where are they going to get it from? The central banks who are in control of everything. Yes, we don't have it. We're broke. The United States, just in case you don't know, I'm going to tell you, is the most indebted nation in the history of the world. The only reason why we can get away with that is because we have the world reserve currency, the US dollar. And we are, you see, there's going to be a point where the world is going to get sick of, what's the product? Let me ask you, what is the number one product of the United States because of our central bank? What are we exporting? That's maybe a better question. What's the number one export product of the United States to the world? It's debt. Exactly. We export more debt than any nation on the planet. And there's going to be a moment of reckoning here. And I think you all know that. And when you have, again, a mechanism here, crisis to crisis to crisis, where the United States having the world reserve currency via the Federal Reserve continues to flood the world with dollars, there's going to be a breaking point. You know that. It's coming. And we're going to see it as an implosion in the debt market like you have no idea. But I think you get it. I really, really do. So we heard from the International Energy Agency, and they're pushing, again, the crisis narrative. And this is their exact words. Are you ready? Record-breaking oil shock. Prepare for record-breaking oil shock. So again, yes, we have seen some pretty epic moves in crude oil, none of which has been a surprise to a single one of you who follow this blog. Maybe a surprise Jim Cramer, because I think he called the top at like $73. Remember, I was laughing at him. And a lot of Jim Cramer fans were laughing at me when it came down. But I was laughing right back at them because I knew, so did you, that crude was going much, much higher. Well, with regard to Brent crude, we only hit $137. WTI, 127, whatever the heck it was. We have come down, but now we're going back up with $105 WTI and like 115 Brent. I mean, make it up. Oh, yeah, but we won't forget about Jim Cramer now, will we? Look, here's the situation here. We are already in an energy crisis. It's about to get monumentally worse, especially as people look. You and I have both been well aware that the relative strength of the dollar would stay high. Relative, or the Dixie, the dollar index to other currencies. No secret. We've spoken about this many times. Okay. Its absolute strength is being flushed down the toilet bowl by design by a runaway central bank known as the Federal Reserve. Meanwhile, you have, our so-called puppet leaders continuing to borrow cash from their central banks. We are in a race to the bottom. I don't know another way to put it. Puppet governments in collusion with the real governments, which is the central banks of the world, are doing all they can to keep inflationary pressures rising. None of this is by accident. And you had it again. I was watching, I think it was CNBC earlier today. Oh, how did the Fed do it? How did they get it? So how did they miss their target so badly? How? Because it's deliberate. You kidding me? Do they really believe this is just a fluke? This just happened by accident and it's about to get monumentally worse? How do we know it's going to get worse? Do you think central banks around the world are going to stop inflating? No, not with the current situation. They're going to inflate faster than ever before, much faster. And that war, the war, is going to expand. And you can expect much more cash to be thrown at it. Hundreds of billions into the trillions thrown at the war, and trillions that were already thrown at COVID. And we still have a missing 6 trillion. Yeah, lovely. Where did that go? Maybe we should, I don't know. Maybe we should find that out. What do you think? See, what happens here? People don't say a word, nothing at all. They don't ask their senators to do anything about it because they can't anyway. They're all powerless pieces of dog shit. You won't know that. And they're all involved in the biggest scheme in the history of the world. We have no representation anymore. It's literally every man and woman for himself in this environment, this one world government controlled by central banks. They control it all. Everything. It's all theater. Everything else is theater, okay? Presidential elections, they don't matter. Your vote don't matter. You know that already. I think we learned that from the last one. Nothing matters in this environment anymore. All right? It's all about stringing the people along in every which manner that they possibly can. And the people won't say a word. You can't do it because it's a crisis. And if you speak out against us sending hundreds of billions of dollars to this, that, and the other crisis, you can't speak out against it because then you will be demonized. You are the bad person. You understand? You are not a patriot because you are not supporting the people of this land or that land, or it's because it's all shit. It's all central banks making everything happen. They are the puppet masters. Every world leader answers to them. You're not allowed to know that. All right, people, look, I'm out of here. Kind of a long video, kind of a crazy week, but we're in the right spots, you and I. We're going to stay here in the right spots. I hope you are a subscriber to my free newsletter, honestly. I send out a lot of important information there. Link in the description of this video. At least do that, okay? Look at the MMRI. I made a prediction today, and I sent it out in my newsletter, the MMRI, Mannarino Market Risk Indicator. I believe we're going to stay in a range here for a while. I would say between 125 and 160 for several months. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But keep your eyes on these things, people. I got your back. You know I do, and I know you have mine. Are you ready? Bring it in. Bring it in, people. We're going to do this together, all right? Love each other, care about each other, and be charitable. If we do these 3 things, the entire world is going to be a better place, honestly, regardless of the freak show that is out there to destroy every single one of us, even those of you that are naked right now, and I really can see you, so put your clothes on. Listen, I'll see you Sunday for my markets. A look ahead. It's going to be lovely. Have a great weekend.